Every year, the public sector generates massive demand for infrastructure and services, while private companies stand ready with the capacity to build it. Yet these two forces exist in isolated silos. When massive government demand and private sector capacity cannot easily communicate with each other, the resulting gap creates a massive amount of systemic friction. The isolation is specific. Government demand sits in one place, vendors sit in another, workers are disconnected somewhere else, and the capital required to mobilize them is locked away. This scattered node map illustrates the immediate consequence. Without connecting pathways, the execution of any public project breaks down right in the middle. Execution becomes the ultimate bottleneck. Winning a government contract means nothing if a company cannot physically fulfill it. While job boards and vendor directories catalog the fragmentation, they do not resolve the disconnect. Venra functions as a dedicated infrastructure layer, a unified grid built to connect the full chain of public sector work. Venra operates as a civic system, taking fragmented public and private demand and structuring it into a single coordinated execution pathway. To understand how civic execution is repaired, we have to examine this operating system layer by layer, starting at the bedrock of demand. The origin point for all civic work is raw government demand, public solicitations, procurement forecasts, and capital plans. This first step happens within Venra contracts. This is the demand engine, responsible for ingesting chaotic documents and outputting clean, highly structured opportunities. This layer actively scores incoming demand for operational fit, necessary labor, and execution complexity, determining what work is actually worth pursuing. But verified demand has no value without a structurally sound organization ready to take it on.
The pipeline feeds directly into the second layer, Venra vendors. Here, raw, unstructured service businesses pass through an operational filter, transitioning into compliant, operationally credible entities. This process ensures that a company is procurement-ready and capable of deployment on day one. The system can now cleanly match the verified public demand from the first pillar with highly capable private providers. By linking these first two layers, Venra answers the foundational questions of civic work: what work exists and who is capable of delivering it. Once a contract is awarded, the process shifts instantly to physical reality. A signed document immediately requires bodies on the ground and materials on site. To facilitate this, Venra introduces its labor infrastructure layer, Venra Work. The system pipeline splits to manage execution. The top branch routes available workers, slotting them directly into the specific staffing gaps of the awarded vendor. The hardware side of execution carries an even heavier risk. Fragmented sourcing is a common cause of operational failure in physical deployment. Without direct, reliable supplier relationships, vendors overpay for materials, their margins collapse, and delivery timelines slip. Venra Supply is built to prevent this supply chain breakdown. Operating on the bottom branch, Venra Supply bypasses generic directories. It matches vendors with precise material requirements, filtering by exact NAICS codes, localized delivery zones, and strict fulfillment capabilities. This connects civic operators directly to the specific supply relationships they need to execute their contracts reliably. Integrating labor routing with precise supply procurement eliminates the operational drag that typically causes awarded contracts to stall on the ground. The system pauses here to address a paradox. Winning a massive government contract often triggers the events that bankrupt a vendor. Attempting to take on massive physical scale without deep foundational support causes operations to collapse under their own weight. The mechanics of public sector cash flow are rigid. Vendors must survive net payment terms, front high mobilization costs, and float expensive supplier invoices long before the government issues a check. Service providers fail when they lack the cash on hand to front payroll and finance their delivery. This diagram introduces venture capital, the financial infrastructure designed to solve this crisis of underfunded execution. By sitting at the center of the deal, Venra actively underwrites the vendor, the specifics of the awarded contract, and the entire execution path. This is execution capital tied to real awarded work, rather than speculative startup funding based on future growth. This structure provides access to specific capital solutions exactly when they are needed, including working capital, purchase order financing, and invoice factoring.
With immediate access to structured financing, vendors can fulfill their contracts reliably without being choked by cash flow limitations. Venra Capital bridges the largest failure point in the industry, taking a high-risk cash flow liability and turning it into a highly executable mandate. The final requirement of the system is coordination. All of these moving parts must be unified into a singular, deliverable reality. The final pipeline node is Venra Fulfillment, where all parallel streams of data, labor, and capital converge. This is the operational delivery layer. Venra Fulfillment manages the physical execution on the ground. It tracks delivery milestones, logs government compliance, and handles all required reporting in real time. This is the moment where a theoretical awarded contract transitions into a tangible, delivered outcome. This final layer answers the concluding question of the civic process. How does the work actually get delivered? Without this final layer of fulfillment, the previous 5 pillars remain isolated capabilities. With it, they form a unified execution engine. Pulling back, we can now view the entirety of the completed architecture. This fully connected 6-stage pipeline demonstrates how the Venra system works. It operates in a strict sequence, where each pillar feeds directly into the next. Contracts create demand, vendors create delivery, work creates labor, supply creates fulfillment, capital creates movement, fulfillment creates outcomes. Because the sequence is unbroken, the systematic outputs are predictable: lower contract failure, better vendor survival, and faster project deployment. The macro problem of public infrastructure is not a lack of available work or willing participants. Success in the public sector depends on vendors who are funded, supplied, and operationally structured, not just numerous. By linking demand, labor, supply, and capital, the Venra operating system upgrades civic infrastructure at its core, making public sector work easier to win, easier to fund, and critically, easier to deliver.